Hello and welcome to the International Women's Day panel. I'm Amy Copeland, CEO, and I am delighted to be joined by three wonderful women who are also ICB members and bookkeepers. First of all, welcome Nikkita Chu. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. My name is Nikkita Chu. I am the founder of AR Bookkeeping, and by experience, I'm also an accountant. So that's me.
Fantastic. Okay, very pleased to have you here. And Nicola Payne, you're a member of the Advisory Council, aren't you? So people probably do know who you are, but if you could tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Nicola. I run the bookkeeping hub down in South Wales. We've got about 60 to 70 clients at the moment, so very busy.
Well, it's very busy. So the average number of clients is around the 30 mark, 30 to 35 mark. So that's a big practice. And the lovely Penelope Allard, how are you? You're a new member of the Advisory Council. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello. Yes, so I've been on the Advisory Council just over a year now, so really enjoying it. It's lovely to have a chance to give back as well and be a part of things. So I'm the Director of Wild Bookkeeping. I started my practice as a sole trader 2008, I think I got my practice license. And then we grew over COVID, so we rebranded, went limited, and Wild Bookkeeping was formed in 2021. And we're now a team of 5, and we won Large Practice of the Year at the Lucas this year. So it's a good year. Joined the Advisory Council and won a Luca.
There we go. That's not the key. You don't have to be a member of the Advisory Council to join, but thank you for mentioning the Lucas. They take place as part of the Bookkeepers Summit every year. So that's coming up at the beginning of November, on the 11th of November. We just started selling tickets for anybody who hasn't booked theirs yet, but you can buy super early bird tickets for the Bookkeepers Summit and the Inspire Tour. But the Luca Award tickets are not on sale yet, so don't worry if you can't see them. There's a good reason. Rightio, fantastic. So first of all, what I wanted to do was ask Nikkita, speak to you about your journey into ICB. You're one of our newest members, and I understand you've joined us, but you're already running a practice, so you're on your way to getting fully qualified with ICB. What made you turn to ICB, and how's that working as part of your career?
So I'm on maternity leave at the moment. I'm currently 5 months in, but I think I've been off work for about just over 6 months. And while I think it was December, I literally had the craziest imposter syndrome, and I was thinking, I've been running this business, it's going well. I'm an accountant by experience. I was thinking there must be something else. I must be missing something. So I started looking into qualifications for bookkeepers, and I came across ICB. And when I was reading it, I was like practice license, AML, all these things. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it existed. Let me get onto it now. So I went through HMRC to get my AML just because, again, imposter syndrome was really hitting. I was like, this seems like a really big thing that's missing. So I got that sorted. And then I started my my ICB journey, basically. I just decided that it was time to sort of level up, because I feel like with bookkeeping, to a lot of people, it came across as something that was sort of like, oh, do we really need a bookkeeper, or it can't be that hard. But then as my business actually grew, I realized that a lot of people, they either don't have the time or the knowledge, or they're just struggling to get it done. And we are actually really, really valuable. So I decided to place some more value on what I was doing as well and invest into my business.
And so why are you still pursuing the ACCA qualifications?
Oh, no, no. I've done 2 ACCA exams, and I can honestly tell you they are actually just headache. I don't find that they're very practical. ICB for me personally is a lot more practical. There's a lot more in terms of what you need to supply to HMRC, how you even get that across the HMRC. I found that with ACCA, it's very there's a lot of numbers and a lot of words, but to me, it's not very practical. So for me, ACCA sort of gone out the window, and I've just adopted ICB.
Excellent. Well, we'll adopt you right back. That's very positive. Penelope Allard, were you also on a journey to getting ACCA qualified, or kind of deviated?
I was. So I actually started bookkeeping when I was 13 in my dad's business, and then didn't go to uni because sadly my mum died just before I got my A-level results. And so I started going to work for my dad's accountant. They were ICAEW, but in those days you had to have a degree to do ICAEW. So I started on the ACCA path, skipped AAT because you didn't need AAT to do ACCA. You could go straight in with A-levels. I got all the way through to halfway through my finals. So there were back then there were 6 exams in the finals, 2 lots of 3. I passed the first lot of 3 and then discovered that I was pregnant with my daughter and intended to carry on and finish those. But my daughter was premature. She wasn't very well for a while. And then just, I don't know, life with a baby, trying to study. It was always going to happen next year, or it, you know, when she goes to preschool. Then I had another child, and then it's, well, when they start school. And it just never really happened. I never finished ACCA. Always wanted to. It was always my intention. But then when AML regulations came in, I had a few people that had started to ask me if I could do some work for them and some bookkeeping. I'd actually got into teaching. So I left working in London. I was teaching. A few people then asked if I could do some work for them, or my students could. And I said, yeah, no, it's fine. I can do it, help pay for the ballet lessons. But I then realised that actually I needed AML cover, and I couldn't get a practice licence with ACCA because I was still a student member. And I looked at ICB, could do the conversion exam, move over to ICB. However, I then discovered that ACCA won't allow you to be a student member if you're a practicing member of another body. So I had a choice. I could either not do any work for anybody at all unless I was employed and finish my ACCA exams, or I could carry on with ICB and get my practice license and grow that way. It was wasn't a hard decision, but it was a tough decision. Having worked for so many years and put so much blood, sweat, tears and sacrifice into getting those ACCA exams, because as Nikkita says, they are really, really horrible, really tough exams to do, to give that up and say, I'm never going to do that again. And I had this big thing that I was going to be an accountant, and it felt like a backward step to be a bookkeeper, if I'm honest, at the time. But ACCA are very inflexible on that one. So, and when I looked at it, there was actually nothing that I couldn't do as an ICB bookkeeper. With the level 4 exams that we've got, the only difference would be audit. So if I'd carried on with my ACCA qualification, I could have done audit, but I'd have had to have worked for an audit firm for 3 years to get that audit experience first. So I didn't see any benefit on it at all. So I carried on with ICB and I grew it. I remember the first summit I went to, everyone was saying cloud bookkeeping's coming in, bookkeeping's going to be dead. And I'm thinking, great, fantastic. I've just given up accounting to go into bookkeeping. But that certainly hasn't been the case. And actually, I'm really proud now to say that I'm a bookkeeper. When I rebranded, I had the choice. Did I want to be Wild Accounting Limited, or did I want to be Wild Bookkeeping Limited? And I made a conscious decision to go for Wild Bookkeeping, because I'm really passionate that bookkeeping is the foundation for good accounts in a business, and that I won't take a client for year-end work without doing the bookkeeping first, because I really believe that bookkeeping is the solid foundation and gives so many extra advantages to businesses too. So,
you're absolutely right. So, yeah. And that really, it comes through with the number of Lucas you've got behind you there. So you're obviously doing something right. I mean, I very much believe that bookkeeping is the high value service now. Nikkita, do you find that's true? Do you work with accountants at the moment? And how do you think that the value proposition for clients plays out? Do you think that you can now offer something more valuable because you've got practical qualifications?
Yeah, definitely. And qualifications aside, some of the accountants that I actually work with, if I present a client to them, some people come to me and say, okay, I just need year-end work. And as Penny just said, year-end work isn't really where it's at when you're a bookkeeper. So some clients come to me and say, okay, I just need, this filed. But the small pool of accountants I work with, a lot of them actually say to me, have you done the bookkeeping? And if I haven't, they don't want to take the client. Just because, first of all, they sometimes don't have the time or the capacity, or accountants, they just want to get things over and done with, to be honest. So they don't want all those transactions to deal with. That us bookkeepers, that's what we love. So they actually ask, have you done the bookkeeping? And half the time, if I haven't, they're saying, okay, either, can you do the bookkeeping? So I have to say to the client, it's going to cost you a bit extra because the accountant doesn't want to do this part, or they just reject the client because to them, bookkeeping is important, but they essentially don't really want to do it. So that's why I think, bookkeepers are really important. And then also on the side of the qualification, the accountants they put a lot of trust into you when you're qualified. So at first I was qualified by experience, but and I also have a accounting with finance degree. But then also the ICB qualification really contributes because it's a lot more practical. So in a nutshell, the accountants I work with, they will trust that I've done the bookkeeping correct. And then from there, they'll take on the client to do the year-end stuff. An example is I work with a charity, I do their bookkeeping, and I found them an accountant to do an independent examination. And one of the main things was, have I done the bookkeeping? So and that way it's easier, for us to work together to get that IE done as well.
That's so powerful. Fantastic. It's almost like ICB has designed this qualification structure for women. It's interesting that both of you, Penelope and Nikkita, have come to it during when you're becoming a mother or you're becoming a mother again. I think we need to keep saying it. I think that ICB is this unusual route into the accounting profession, but it's interesting that all the other bodies do require you to have somebody to sign a piece of paper to say that you've been working for a set number of years, whereas ICB, I think because we've created this very practical qualification, we can say quite confidently this person is ready to run their own business. But I think it's very useful to have that community behind you where you can ask those questions, because we can't fit everything in the qualification, because otherwise it would be less accessible. But I think it's good to have that balance of great practical qualification, but really brilliant people to support you once you're in the profession. And thank you everybody in the chat. Interested to hear from Susan and Rattray saying, actually, I'm the same. I blood, sweat and tears with the ACCA, and I've just resigned because I've got my ICB practice license. Fantastic. So let's hear from Nicola. Nicola, you are running one of our bigger practices, as we've established. You've got a lot of clients behind you. Some of our members will know you as the former Wales branch chair. Is that right? Cardiff branch.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about your team and how it works. Are they all employed? Have you got subcontractors?
So we're a mixture. So we are 6 altogether, including myself. So I have 5 subcontractors and 1 employee. So the employee is my admin lady, who literally only does a few hours a week, but just really helps me on that admin side that we get bogged down with sometimes, all the extra AML chasing of identification and things like that. So we tend to work, or what I decided was when I was getting to the point I needed help, I realized I can't do everything myself. And there comes a point where you just get to that point where you need extra help. So you need to look at what is the areas that I need help in. So maybe it's somebody else to help with the data entry and do a lot of that side of things. So I've got a couple of the girls that do a lot of that sort of stuff for me. I have somebody else that does all my year-end work and corporation tax work, because I'm not able to do that. A few of us do the self-assessment work. So we kind of split it as the work is there and who can do what. So it's not definitely that we all just work full time, because we don't, and we're quite flexible in how we work. I tend to do a 9 to 5 just because that's what suits me with my lifestyle right now. But some of the others, they've got younger children, so need to have that flexibility of working as and when they choose to do so. And as long as the deadlines get met, i.e. VAT returns and payroll, etc., doesn't really matter, does it, as long as the work is done, and they all have a good work-life balance is the key as well. So I think that's how we tend to work. We're fairly flexible, sort of interact as we need to with each other, and yeah, as long as the work gets done, we're all happy.
That's great. I think it's brilliant, this sort of split, and interesting that your employee is an admin person rather than a bookkeeper. Penelope, is an admin person in your business?
I do. So the first person I employed was actually a bookkeeper. And then I realised actually that was a mistake. And really, I mean, she was a great bookkeeper. That was really good. But what was missing was really the admin. So I'd say anyone that's looking to grow and expand, you need to take on an admin person first, because it was actually my business coach that suggested it to me. She said, make a list of everything that you are doing that you don't need to be qualified to do. And those are the things that I don't need to be doing. So as you're growing your practice, you need to be thinking, what am I doing that I don't need to be doing, and get rid of those, because that frees up your time then for growing the practice, working on your business, and freeing up that time really is key. And there is so much. I didn't think I had enough work for an admin person to do, but there is so much work that an admin person can do. So yeah,
Yeah,
highly recommend having an admin person.
I really like that concept. I quite often apply that. Am I doing something that only I can do? And if not, definitely get someone else to do it, because they'll probably do it better. I actually think that this International Women's Day feels like the first event at ICB that I've done where I actually feel like a CEO, because I've basically had no idea what's going on, and I'm just like, please send me a link. I don't know how to get in. I don't know whether it's right that I feel more feckless and that makes me feel more like a CEO. I don't know, but I just certainly feel less like I'm doing the work, which I think is positive for me anyway. Nicola, how do you make sure that all of your team members are able to thrive, particularly if they're all kind of working in slightly different ways? What hours of the day do you work, and is that the rest of the team?
Yeah, so I do a 9 to 5 just because that suits me at my stage in life, and that's fine. I don't specify what they work. They can do what they like. It's tricky to know how do they thrive. I hope they feel they thrive. Most of them are probably watching, so they're probably going to say in the chat, no, we feel rubbish or whatever, but but hopefully they all feel like they're thriving. I think it's just being available to them and being available to do, if they've got a query or they're struggling with something, being there to sort of talk it through and decide, well, we'll do it this way, we'll take this approach to this particular issue or problem. If we've got an issue with a particular client, or how do we resolve this problem, we've got to collaborate together to try and resolve those issues. And I think that's part of it, is being there for them, not leaving them just out there on their own, and because a lot of them work remotely. We don't speak necessarily every day, but we're there when we need to be, and we're chatting all the time on various platforms and things, and WhatsApp groups and whatever else, things going on as needed, depending on what work we're doing at the time. So and it can kind of fluctuate as well, where you can have big influx of a lot of work, or you're doing the mad rush, get to the end of January season. Although we finished 2 weeks early this year, so we did really well. So, it's things like that, yeah. So, but again, it's just being organised and starting them, like we'll be starting them again next month. We're not going to wait till next January. We'll start as soon as we possibly can and get some out the way all the time, So it's being organised and just being in that collaboration, that then everybody can just keep working away at the bit they're doing and thriving in their particular area. So, yeah.
And how do you meet these people, and how do you assess what's right for your business?
So I think that's a very personal thing. Basically, I've met all of the ones that do the bookkeeping and corporation tax work through ICB. They're all ICB members. I think I met one of them on this event a couple of years ago, to be fair. We did a speed networking thing, I think was part of it.
So watch out if you get in that land.
Exactly. So I think it's these sort of events where you meet people, and you if you click with someone, if you think, yeah, I can work with this person, and they've got to be right for you. I think sometimes you just think, well, I'm looking for this person, I'll take the first person that rings and says I need a job, and you think that's not necessarily the right person. So you've got to be careful and sort of assess and know what you're looking for in someone. And also, like Penny said, if you want someone that can literally just hit the ground running and just get on with it, and they're competent enough to get on with it, you need to find someone that's got the capacity to do that, but also the ability to do that, and the competence to do that as well, that they're assured in their own qualifications. And you might not want to take a new person on that's literally just qualified yesterday. If you want them just to throw a load of work at them, you've got to train them a little bit as well if they're just a new person. But it depends where you're at with what clients you've got, and yeah, it's all a learning curve, I think, on both sides, really. So I think we're just learning as we go. But I found I've got the team at the moment, they're fab, and I think they're brilliant, and I love them all, and I think it's working really nice at the minute. So yes, sending love to them all.
Yes, much love, and great to hear from Pippa Paradise, the other Elizabeth Carter. There's one Elizabeth Carter who works at ICB in my team, and she's great. There's also Pippa Paradise, who is, I believe, subcontracts to you. Is she your subcontractor?
Yes.
And Helen Barr as well, who we know is one of our, she's the employer of the year, so she knows a thing or two about team building. Nikkita, you've told us you've got a 5-month-old. How are you managing your time? Have you got people to work for you?
So I have a few subcontractors. So they I just send them like ad hoc things to sort of do when I physically just can't. But I completely different to Nicola. I work around him. So I've got literally a spreadsheet with all of the deadlines, when people's books need to be completed by, when things need to go across their accountant to be filed and things like that, and VAT returns need to be filed, just so that I can, have a check through to make sure that all VAT has been accounted for. So I've got that, and I literally just work around him. If he decides that he doesn't want to sleep at night, I'll do a bit of work then. If he decides that he wants to sleep during the day, I'll work then. If he decides that on the weekend he wants to be really calm, I'll do work then. Sometimes I literally can't do anything for like 2 or 3 days, which, as long as there's not anything that's urgent, I just accept it and move on. But at the same time, my clients can still always contact me by email, WhatsApp, phone. But yeah, I literally just work around him at the moment. When he goes to nursery or school, has a childminder, that will change. But for now, it's literally, he's just shaping my timetable.
So it's like, be more bookkeeper, have an Excel spreadsheet, be organised about it.
Yeah, literally, it's made me more organised. He's definitely made me, yeah.
Laura Holmes has called you Superwoman in the chat. I'm so impressed.
Thanks.
When I had my first baby, I couldn't really do anything. I remember I tried to make a lasagna once. It took me like 8.5 hours to make this one lasagna, and I was like, I'm going to cook again.
The day after I was going to say, the day after I came out of hospital, I actually ran somebody's payroll. Just check the numbers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When they first come out, they're quite quiet, aren't they? And you've got like 2 weeks where you're like, oh, this is easy. What was everyone talking about?
According to everybody, I had like the easiest childbirth. So I said, okay, I'm just going to carry on like that. Yeah.
Superwoman indeed. Oh, that's very impressive. And Shireen Shillingford says, props for managing life and a new baby. Working around him is the best way to manage. And they do say sleep when the baby sleeps, but I guess it's like, do the payroll when the baby.
Yeah.
You've got some time for yourself. Why waste it sleeping? Yeah. Yes, it is called Waitrose. And interestingly, I did have a Waitrose lasagna last night. And I've learned from my mistakes. So that's the important thing as well, isn't it? I just love reading the stuff in the chat. So talk to me so we've talked a little bit about working with a team. And I love that. I think bookkeeping, one of the reasons it appeals to women, obviously, is because of these, pervasive gender roles. But also we're lucky, of course, to be able to choose to spend more time with our kids if we want to. But bookkeeping, especially if you're running your own business or you're working as a subcontractor, could give you the opportunity to have that flexible work-life balance that enables you to have be with your kids a bit more. Penelope, you actually work with one of your kids, is that right?
I do, yes. So my youngest works with me. So he does woodwork. That's his main thing. But actually, one of the things he's realised from running his own business, he started running his business when he was 16. And the first thing I did was get him set up with Xero account and made him keep copies of receipts. And he learned how to do his own bookkeeping and his own tax return. When he started at uni, he needed a job to do to work around uni. And he's quite open about this on LinkedIn. He's actually neurodiverse. So for somebody with autism, working in McDonald's or a pub would just be an absolute worst nightmare. And at that point, I had some capacity. So I said, well, why don't you come and work for me? So that's worked really well. He's actually taken a break from uni this year. So he's been doing more hours for me, and he started looking at his ICB studies as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it's worked really well. But I think it's the flexibility that we have around bookkeeping that makes that difference. So, as Nicola and Nikkita both said, so long as the work is done and the deadlines are met, we don't mind when that work gets done. So we're a team of 5. Flexibility is actually at our core. I think it actually says on our website, when the tide's in, she's out, and when it's out, she's in. So unlike Nicola, I don't do a 9 to 5. My work is very flexible. And if it's a gorgeous sunny day and the tide's in, then I'll go down the beach and have a swim, and I'll work in the evening. Or if the forecast is rubbish for the weekend, I'll work at the weekend and head to the beach during the week. And I want my team to have that same flexibility.
I'm just thinking everybody should know by now, but you are Penelope Allard of Wild Bookkeeping, and you love to swim in really, really cold water.
I do. The colder the better. See, I even have a tide table on my wall, so I know exactly when the tide is in at any point in time. So yeah, I love swimming in the water. The colder the better. It's got me through a lot of challenges in life. So yeah, I really enjoy it. For me, going for a swim is my reset button. It's the thing that I need. So if I've got a really, you get those days when you've just got an absolute headache, nothing's going, you can't see the wood for the trees, and there's a problem that you can't work out how to solve. My answer for that is just to go and jump in some freezing cold water. And that usually seems to cure the headache, solve the problem, and the answers magically appear.
I love it. It's so brave. It's so brave. Talk to us a bit about, so you say you've got that on your website. How do you make that work with your clients? Because presumably your clients are all different. They're all working different hours as well. How do you make that work?
So occasionally clients have phoned me and I'm at the beach, and I say, well, just a minute. I said, I'm just at the beach at the moment. Give me 20 minutes. I'll be back at the computer. But generally speaking, I found as we've got larger, so like Nicola, we've got around 60 clients. And if I answer the phone to every single client all of the time, I'd never get any work done. So we actually use Moneypenny, been using them for a couple of years now. And so if clients call, the call goes into Moneypenny. It does ping up on my phone first. So if I see it's somebody calling that I really urgently, desperately need to speak to, then I will take the call. But generally speaking, the calls go to Moneypenny. They will manage it and they will book clients in for a call on Calendly. So we have Calendly links set up. There's actually a link to it on our website. So if you go to the contact us page on my website, there's an option, if you're a client, click here, and then it gives them options to book meetings. If you want a discovery call, click here. Clients can then book in that meeting. I've got slots available. The only day I don't take calls on is a Friday. Fridays I keep clear. I think it's really important to have boundaries. And I've found that you can be really busy during the week and there are certain tasks that you have to get done in that week. And when I was taking calls and meetings on a Friday, I found sometimes I think, right, I know I can get that done. I've worked out I'm going to get that done on such and such a day. And then Friday happens, you're on the phone all day, and then you end up doing those things at the weekend. Now, I do sometimes work at the weekend, but that needs to be my choice. So having those boundaries, particularly as your practice grows, is really important. So clients book in on Calendly, and actually they hardly phone now. They know that it's easier just to book a call on Calendly. So now the calls that do come in actually are the urgent calls where they need to speak to me straight away. Lisa monitors my emails. So if clients come in and they're emailed, Lisa will go back and say, that's great, that's scheduled for Thursday, or we'll get back to you on such and such. But equally, if someone comes in with something urgent, that gets picked up and monitored. And as a team, we all have access to all of the emails via our practice management system. So because we all work flexibly, I mean, Esther, she's a real early bird. She'll be up at 5. I'm not really an early bird. I tend to work later in the evening. For me, that just feels quieter and more settled. That's when I focus better. Merrick prefers working late. Lisa's usually up early. So there's probably one of our team logging in and looking at that practice management software all the time, apart from maybe between 11 at night and 5 in the morning. And I find for some clients, they're busy with their own businesses during the day, and they need sometimes help more in the evening. So one of my clients, for example, she runs her business and she's got 3 children under 5. So for her, trying to have a meeting during the day, we have tried it when we've really desperately needed it, but it's not terribly productive. For her, it's much easier to have a chat to me in the evening after she's put the kids to bed. So we can offer that flexibility because we don't have those fixed work hours.
That's brilliant. So, I mean, just this idea that you can not only have your own flexible working, you can let your employees and your team have their own flexible working, and then that also can work better for the clients as well. It seems almost kind of radical. You want to take a step back.
Yeah, I think communication's the key. So we use Teams, and I've got a channel set up for every single client. So if anybody's working on that client, they can pop notes in there. So that's really important, particularly when we're all working at different times. I mean, the team know that if I want to speak to them, it doesn't matter whether they're working or not. So one of the pros of having flexible working is if I speak to them, they might not be working, but unless they're, I don't know, in the shower or in the bath, I do expect them to answer the call and have a quick chat. So you have to have a certain amount of flexibility. If you're going to have flexibility, you do have to be flexible. But anything that's not urgent, that doesn't need to be dealt with immediately, we'll pop it in Teams, and then we can all come back to it at a certain point. And we do actually have 3 o'clock every afternoon. I try to make sure that I'm available at 3. for a general Teams call that's set in the diary. No clients can book in between 3 and 3:30. And then if my team need to speak to me about anything, or we just have a chat, sometimes we all just end up jumping on and have a chat for half an hour. But that replaces, if you're in an office, you get to know each other and you chat. And I think it's really important to have time when you can actually all chat together. And otherwise, it's just me speaking to each team member individually, and having that slot from 3 to 3:30 where we all know if we want to jump on and chat, we can, means that they all get to know and talk to each other as well. The only time we've actually all been together in person was at the Luke Awards.
No, really?
Yeah, that was the first time. The Luke Awards is the first time I'd ever met Helen. So she'd worked for me for 18 months by then. And that was the first time we'd met in person.
Amazing. Technology is such an enabler.
Like Nicola, I found her at the I think it was the ICB Inspire tour, and we met him on one of the sort of speed dating chat room things. So that's where I found Helen. And so she lives in Kent and I'm in Essex. And the first time we met was at the Luke Awards. And actually, Esther, I'd worked with Esther for about 10 years. And the first time I met Esther was actually at Camtex North in Manchester last year.
Well, and Pippa saying
it was literally the first time we'd all been together.
Yeah.
With Lucas.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring. So, if you're sat at home and you're cradling a baby, or you don't like leaving your house, or you've got a beautiful whippet, I think Steph Busby has a whippet, is that right, like me? Don't worry. You can run this however you want to run it, and you can do it from home, even if you've got a big team of people. I was hearing that word neurodiverse. I think we're hearing it more and more, which is fantastic. There's much greater awareness and acceptance of the neurodivergent people that we work with, and we're lucky enough to have in our families and in our networks. Nikkita, is that coming into your kind of environment? Is that something that you feel you're able to cope with, or do you have to make any changes to work with different types of people?
I have two clients that are neurodiverse. The word's not coming out. Neurodiverse, and I have found that I've sort of had to change my approach. I've changed my approach entirely. So when I first started out, I kind of, for some reason, expected clients to know a little bit about, bookkeeping and their accounts. And as time has gone on, I've realized that a lot of people don't have a clue. They want you to do everything from the ground up. Now, when it's come to my clients that are neurodiverse, I found that things do take a bit longer, but that's absolutely fine. It takes a bit more explanation, a couple more phone calls, sort of Penny, what you were saying about not meeting people that worked for you. I've not met a lot of my clients in person. I kid you not, we could live in the same city and we've not met. Or I think I met like one of them just last week, and I've been doing their books for ages. So, a lot of phone calls, a lot of back and forth, but just because they want to make sure that they understand. And that's the thing. I find that my neurodiverse clients actually want to understand a lot more than my clients that are not. And I actually had some feedback from one of my clients who's neurodiverse. So she's neurodiverse and she's got ADHD and she's dyslexic. And she's saying that I've basically changed her perspective of how she looks at her finances, from being a scary part of her business to something that she can do and feel more comfortable dealing with. So throughout those conversations, even before she was onboarded, I think we had about 6 phone calls, and that was fine because I understood, first of all, it's not the easiest thing to understand. We don't sit doing those exams, and, I didn't go to university, get a first class degree, start doing ICB to explain something in half an hour. It will take longer, all those years of training and that continuous training, you can't explain it to somebody in half an hour. So, those phone calls before the onboarding, I was absolutely fine with that. So yeah, I do find that, different clients would want to be treated differently, but also not to sort of degrade them, not to make them feel small as well. So I would never be like, oh, how did you not know that? Or, we've spoken about this before, because honestly, for people that have had a baby, even like we have things like baby brain. I forgot everything when I was pregnant. So, different life events, different things can make people need to be, fed information in different ways. Some people wanted something visual. So I made like a onboarding pack for people that wanted to look at it. I send it to everybody, but half the people.
Oh, you've weirdly disappeared, Nikkita. That's so peculiar. I wonder where you've gone. Penelope, you mentioned that your son is neurodivergent. Do you make sort of oh, you're back, Nikkita. That was very peculiar, and now we can't hear you. But anyway, let's talk about Penelope's son.
I can hear you now.
We're going to talk briefly about Penelope's son, if that's okay. He's also neurodivergent. Is that a challenge, or is that an opportunity?
So actually, one of the things he finds with his autism actually is he's really, really good at spotting patterns. So he's fantastic. You can give him a huge spreadsheet, and actually he can spot trends and patterns very quickly and very easily, which a lot of people who are neurodiverse, find that's a skill that they often have. It's that attention to detail and looking at things. So I think we have to look. It's these things aren't a disability. Equally, Merrick would get really cross if he hears people calling it a superpower, because it isn't. It comes at a huge cost, and there are things that you can't do as well. But I think it's one of the things really with International Women's Days. Everybody faces challenges, and what we need to do as employers, or with our clients, is look at what challenges are people facing and what things can we put in place to make sure that those challenges are no longer challenges, and giving everybody that equal opportunity. So, for example, lots of people who are neurodiverse may prefer to wear headphones. If you see Merrick at Fab next week, he will probably have a pair of headphones on, just because the noise and everything will be a huge amount of overwhelm. So if you have somebody neurodiverse in the workplace, allow them to wear headphones. I have a friend of mine, actually, she's neurodiverse. She works in the NHS, and her manager constantly complains because she wears headphones in the office, but she needs that, and she will work better and be more productive with those headphones on. So it's looking at things like that, looking at the hours that people work and when they can be more productive as well. So lots of people who are neurodiverse actually find first thing in the morning can be difficult to work, and they'd rather work later in the day. So building in those flexibilities, looking at how people like to communicate as well. So for a lot of people, making phone calls is something that they find really difficult, and they would prefer to deal with things on email. So when we onboard a client, we actually have space in our CRM system to ask, what is your preferred method of communication, and is there any particular time? So some people say, actually, I really hate speaking on the phone. Lots of people who are neurodiverse actually hate speaking on the phone. So having a note that this person, please only call them in an emergency, they would prefer an email. Or if you are going to call them, don't call them on a Friday, because they've got something that always happens on a Friday. So I think it's really important to look at how people want to communicate. Think about the noise and the sound environment that's around them. Obviously, if you have a remote team, that's easy because they can pick that up for themselves. But if you're in an office, think about how that affects people. Think about the lighting that might be there. Lots of people who are neurodiverse don't like bright lighting, and they prefer to work in a dimmer, quieter environment. So I think it's really important that we look with our clients and our teams, think what challenges they're being presented with, and make sure that we can make adaptations to make that world a better place for them.
That's fantastic. Just get back to you, Nikkita. Sorry, we lost you there. It's very weird. Yes. It went quiet. How important is it to you to make sure that you're able to provide that service to clients in the way that they need to be served, I suppose? I think that's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah, no, it is really, really important, because at the end of the day, these clients, for example, the clients that I have who are neurodiverse, dyslexic, have ADHD, they've actually taken a step that a lot of people probably thought that they couldn't, and actually started a business. So to support them in that, I mean, that's incredible. Like, they've started this business. And as Penny said, some people say being neurodiverse is a superpower, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, people say things like that, but at the same time, those people who are neurodiverse, sometimes they feel like they're being held back. So, for them to step out there and start a business and, do things that any other person can do because they know they can do it themselves, I mean, that's incredible. So to be able to support them on their journey, that's great. And also, so me adapting, myself around them, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I feel like as women, we are really good at adapting, becoming mothers, adapting into workspaces where there's loads of, it's predominantly men, we are really adaptable. So in that situation, to adapt, it wasn't very difficult, but you have to become sort of conscious to it. You have to know that it's something that you need to do. to sort of make that person feel comfortable as well.
That was brilliant. I mean, that was timed perfectly with that eloquent summary. Yeah. We still sorry about that, and apologies to anybody who's having technical issues. There's always some issues when we run these events, but it's brilliant to have everybody here. I'm sort of conscious of the time, and thinking that maybe we could go back to you, Nicola. Do you have any kind of thoughts on the future of practice, the future of the profession, and how we can all work together to make sure that people do feel included?
Oh gosh, that's a question.
Big question.
I think it's like we've just been saying, it's being flexible in all angles, and there is no right answer. Whatever works for you and your clients and your team is okay. And we've like we said at the summit last year, it's okay. That's the kind of message, isn't it? That it's whatever your team looks like, whatever your client base looks like, whatever hours you work, flexibility, all the rest of it, however you reach out to your clients in different ways, it's all okay for you and for your team and your clients, and that's great. Doesn't necessarily mean that we all have to copy each other and do it the same, because it might not work the same for everybody, but we can take tips and ideas from each other and go, oh, actually, yeah, that's a really good idea. I might start implementing that, but I'm going to do it in this way because that will suit my team or my working pattern better. So I think it's sort of understanding how we each work, understanding the flexibility of our team, understanding our clients more. I mean, I don't think I've got any clients that are neurodiverse, but none have made it clear to me that they are and need any extra support in that area. So I don't know, to be honest. They've not sort of made it clear. I do actually have a client that trains in neurodiversity, so that's quite interesting. So I'm aware of it. They do a lot of training with various government bodies and things. So yeah, they're very much hot on that topic. I think it's just being aware, isn't it? Being aware of it and trying to be inclusive as possible in every angle. Even here in Wales, we have a language issue as well. So if there's, a Welsh speaker, things like that, how do I accommodate that if they want to do their books in Welsh? It's a good question.
What a challenge. I mean, can the software cope with that? I don't know.
I don't know. Probably not at the moment.
Who knows? It probably should. Wonderful. Do you have any closing thoughts, Penelope?
Yeah, I think as Nicola said, we're all very different, and I mean that's what's so important really with brand and social media as well. You see so many people just putting the same posts out there, or worried about what they should put out on social media. And actually, I think celebrating our diversity is really important. The three of us here all run very different practices, and there's plenty of work out there and plenty of clients. And I think it's really important to express to clients how you work and what flavour your business and your practice is, because then you attract the clients that you're going to enjoy working with, and they're going to enjoy working with you. So I think it's really important. We need to celebrate these differences, make sure that, if somebody does have a particular challenge and we come across, making sure that, if we can make some adaptations to make that easier for them, that's really important. ICB were great last year with the Luke Awards. So Merrick would have found the whole thing, he has food allergies plus with his autism. So actually coming to the Luke Awards for the dinner would have been really difficult for him. So he actually joined us at the Luke Awards after dinner. So he was able to be there for the awards, come up on stage with me to collect the Lucas, enjoy the party afterwards, but he didn't have to do the dinner part. So I think it's really important to look at where people have differences, what things they struggle with, treat each other with respect and not say, oh, you're not doing that. Well, that makes it wrong. There is, as Nicola said, there's no right, there's no wrong answer. We need to celebrate that diversity, and there are plenty of clients out there, and there are lots of different bookkeepers, and we all do things in our own different way, and that's absolutely fantastic, and that's what we need.
We do indeed. Lovely. And also Kirsty's kind of made a good point, is that actually there are so many differences, and also you might evolve how you run your business throughout your career and she's mentioned having kids and when they go to different schools or when they grow up. Nikkita, how about you? I mean, you're one of our newest members. And you've got a very young baby. How do you see your practice evolving, and how would you like that to look in the future?
At the moment, I'm sort of just trying to tap into all of the events. Like I'm going to FAD next week. I didn't even know these things existed before. I could have went last year. So, at the moment, I'm just looking for things like the right software and things like that, so that I can, grow the business basically. But I think I will still sort of be working in the same way for a while, especially working around the baby, because have you guys seen the price of childcare? It doesn't make sense.
Very high in Britain.
Yeah.
It's like 30% of average income. We're one of the worst countries for that, actually, apparently.
Yeah, we are the worst for childcare, even with the new things that are coming in. So I mean, even at the moment, I'll have client calls and beforehand I'll say to them, "Oh, by the way, the baby's going to be there," and they're just like, "Yeah, that's fine." And I somebody put in the chat, not all clients are right for you. I mean, if I ever said to somebody, the baby's going to be there, and they're like, "What's he doing there?" Then I'd be like, "Well, she's going to be here for the foreseeable." So, yeah. So I find I'll find my clients once you accept the baby being there as well, because you might have to start coming to meetings. He's not.
Oh, I don't know what that is about. We presume it's nothing to do with the baby this time, but even the tech can let us down as well. I'm sure she's going to come back in just at the last moment. But we are at time now, so thank you ever so much for joining us. I think, you're back, Nikkita. I was just going to say, and really to borrow your words, Nikkita, I think COVID taught us how to be resilient. I think now we're all learning how to be adaptable. And like Nikkita says, if you're a woman, that probably comes to you quite naturally. But yes, we've got to be adaptable. We've got to be open to new clients, new team members, new experiences. And thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful day. Good luck with the
Thank you.
thriving team. Thanks so much.
Thank you.